FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Buzianas, no call! Scot!
Salamini for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Blasts.
Yes!
That's it!
Miljevic.
Beautiful ball! Here's Bozanic. They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotsanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Mike's up.
Does that make you weep?
I quite enjoyed that.
I was just going to say, when I first
You know
started...
I enjoyed that.
Oh, yes. When I first started in radio, I had to change my name.
Back in the 50s.
Yes. And the only reason at the time was because they thought I sounded too ethnic. So I said, then what name should I have? And they said, George White, George Brown, any colour, George is fine.
Mm.
So I said, so Danikian doesn't work. They said, correct. Run another name. So I took one letter out of my name and made it Donegan. And I had the whole Irish community thinking I was a member of the O'Donegans.
Ah.
But we're going Scottish tonight because on the Pioneers, you've cranked up every inventory list and come up with a player,
Yes.
a referee,
Yes.
and a member of the police force.
Yes.
And anything else that he's bringing with him other than a whistle?
Great guy.
Great guy. A comedian, storyteller, and a guy who's been creating havoc on Facebook this week for me. I've had about 4 million people ringing up saying, have you got Ronnie Sinclair on?
4 million. I've told you many times not to exaggerate.
Okay. Ron Sinclair, how is it that you managed to sneak past the advance guard and get in here, and you're still in uniform, I notice? Very impressive.
Well, only the Victoria Police Soccer Club uniform. I'm not tooled up.
Well,
there was a lot of people actually said, if you're going to go and see the two Georges, you better tool up.
I thought you might bring the bagpipes in.
Yeah, well, as I said, I rode the push bike to work, and I've played the bagpipes skiing down Mount Buller, but I think riding a push bike might be a little beyond me.
Wow.
Something to work on in the future.
Yeah, I'll take it on board.
Ron Sinclair, your football story has so many different chapters. We don't know where to start. I mean, George Katsanis normally reaches in and goes, take us way back.
We're going to do that. We're
Oh,
going
you got
to
something
alter
else?
it this year. We do
You're
have
gonna
our...
alter the schedule and template.
I'm going to send the schedule to next week.
Wow.
Before we go to our general question, which we start with, I want to hear about the famous hat-trick at Western Suburbs, because I don't want this hour to pass without the listeners hearing about this famous hat-trick at Western Suburbs.
Is it going to take that long, is it?
It might do.
George, I've got news for you. There is no chance in the wide world of sport that this hour would go past without me talking about the hat-trick against Western Suburbs in the Premier League.
Yes, in the Premier League, of course.
In the Premier League.
All right, goal one.
Goal one, up for a... So I played the vast majority of my football career
Kicking
as
people.
That hurts, but yes, true enough, as a centre-half. So I get over the halfway line and I start to get a nosebleed. But I used to go up for the corners. So gone up for the first corner and a header at the back post. In it goes.
Nice one.
20 minutes later, went up for another corner. The goalkeeper, and this takes some of the glory away, the goalkeeper has fumbled the corner, dropped the ball right at my feet, and it's gone in off my shin pad. And the game's gone on. We were winning 3-0 with about 2 minutes left to go, and we got a penalty. Dave Stack used to take our penalties and used to take them very, very well and very successfully. I'd run the entire length of the field.
Sprinted, I'm told.
Well, for me,
What to
sprinting
say,
looks
can I
like
take
Marcel
it?
Marceau running against the wind. But no, I didn't say I want to take it. I ripped the ball out of Stacky's hand.
There was no discussion.
There was no discussion whatsoever.
Disgusting.
I put it down there.
I cannot believe that you did a Luis Suarez or a Neymar to your fellow colleagues there and ripped it out of their hands and decided you were going to make it 3 goals in the game. That's cruel.
Well,
I didn't think you had it in you, actually.
it is cruel, George, but life is cruel. And
You mean life's not fair? You don't always get what you deserve. Is
yeah,
that
that's right.
Yes.
But on this occasion,
You
I
deserve.
All right, so we're going to cut that up and it'll have its own little
Oh,
short
God.
podcast, that hat trick story, and we'll be able to send it worldwide to everyone who asks in the future, and there'll be that many that do.
Well, I can actually, I've actually got a tabletop reenactment that I could bring in on another occasion. The PowerPoint presentation goes a little longer than 1 hour.
So can you do it on Subudio for us or something?
Yeah, oh yeah, I've got all that down pat. But yeah, look, getting it into 1 hour is probably a little beyond us.
Ron Sinclair, you were born in Falkirk. That's not in Australia. So how did you get here?
We came out.
Oh, it's a
as
we
the
now.
old. My family, my mum, dad, and myself came out as the $10 Poms, and landed in Fremantle, Western Australia, on my 3rd birthday. So 23 years ago.
Was the good doctor blowing at that time?
23 years ago. Yeah, go on. No, sorry,
you look
George.
like you doubt.
Was the good doctor blowing?
The Fremantle doctor
Fremantle.
every single day. Never,
Oh, my God.
never missed it.
So how long did you stay in Fremantle?
We stayed in Perth for 7 years and then went and lived in Papua New Guinea.
What?
For-
What, the Highlands?
We're at Lay for 10 months and then Moresby for a bit over 3 years.
What was that all about? Why did you go to Papua
Dad-
New Guinea?
Dad was a Sparky. He
Okay,
worked
there
as an
was
electrician.
opportunities.
Got a job with Nilex Cables, and they gave him the opportunity to go up there as a Southeast Asian representative.
So what was it like? What was life like in Papua New Guinea for a young boy, a young Scottish boy, just becoming an Australian?
Oh, it's fantastic. It was like living in Boys Own Annual. You know, in those days, it was a very safe place, and you would finish school, and the rule was when the sun set, you came home, and in between the end of school and sunsetting, we would ride our bikes literally to the edge of the jungle and go exploring there, and there'd be hunting and fishing, and it was a great place.
Well, it's
to grow
also
up as a
Australia's
kid.
colony. Australia was in control, was responsible for the goodwill and also the growth of Papua New Guinea until it became independent.
Yeah, well, we were there until just after independence, and
Wow.
it got a little bit white-old and woolly then. And
What, some of the rascals stepped up?
some of the rascals got very, very rascally,
Okay.
and Mum just announced that that's it, we're going.
But hang on, you did get a chance to play for the Pirates, though, didn't you, while you were in Papua?
That was
The Port
actually
Moresby Pirates.
my very first team was the Port Moresby Pirates.
Tell us about them.
Oh, look, we played on a hockey field. So this was at I think under 14 level.
Get out.
So we played on the hockey field. You had to wear fairly decent runners or boots because the bindies, the prickles on the
Yeah.
ground were just everywhere. You did not slide tackle.
No, I can imagine.
Yeah. But it was great fun, you know. It was the same as playing as a kid anywhere, I suppose. You just run around kicking the ball with your mates and having a fantastic time, and that's what football did. It probably brought into me a lot of the love I have of engaging with people through football, because we would be playing teams that had Caucasian backgrounds. We'd be playing teams that were mainly made up of locals.
Yeah, the indigenous.
And in our team there was both Caucasians and locals playing along, and you know, it's football. Everyone's the same.
Fantastic stuff.
Which leads us to
Oh.
your very first football memory. Can you recall?
Can I remember my first memory? George, you've been doing this long? My first memory as a footballer was in the backyard.
Thought it might be the whistle.
In Perth, playing with my dad, just running around. We've actually got a little bit of what is now video, but obviously in those days the
Super 8 or
Super
something?
8,
Yeah.
and we.
Have you still got it?
Yeah, still got that.
Sensational.
Still got that as Super 8 and on video.
Dad
running
love
around
his
doing
footy?
that. Yeah. Dad played as a youth, but then turned to refereeing, so he turned to the dark side.
Wow.
And he refereed in Scotland, West Australia, and frighteningly in Papua New Guinea.
My God. So you were contaminated early.
Yeah, that's it. I didn't have any chance. You know, I was never ever going to grow up as a tennis player.
So what did you learn about your father's exploits in Papua, and how dangerous was it refereeing in New Zealand, in New Guinea?
It was the Wild West.
Wow.
And I learned a lot about it because I went to just about every game that he refereed. And
How
and
brave was he?
Yeah, pretty brave. Well, there's a fine line, brave, stupid. Yeah, we went to game. We left games and literally under a hail of spears and arrows on occasions. Dad refereed a game in the Germanian club that really turned upside down, and we left in what I always termed at school as a tank because it made the story sound better. But we left that game in an armoured personnel carrier.
Get out of here.
Great story. When you get into school the next day, what did you do over the weekend, Johnny? I went fishing. What did you do on the weekend, Johnny? I went for a bike ride. What did you do on the weekend, Ron? I went to a football game and we left in a tank.
I'm surprised actually the federations here haven't invested in some tanks to help referees get home from games on those particular occasions.
There have been enough volleys and torrents of abuse that referees have had to endure. I couldn't imagine inciting them even more by bringing in a personal carrier. That would just lift the intensity of the screaming to new heights.
I have never ever been foolish enough to say that I'm a great referee. I think my enjoyment of football brings something to refereeing, but something that people often say is, Ronnie, you always can't. Doesn't matter what people are doing. Doesn't matter what people are saying. You always look like you're enjoying it. You never look like you're worried about the crowd. And I say that when you've left a football game under a torrent of arrows, or we needed an armoured personnel carrier to leave a game, 30 or 40 verbalising people on the sideline, it just doesn't cut it.
We're talking to Ron Sinclair, member of the Victoria Police Force, but in his time a player, a referee, and a great storyteller. Were you like Dennis Vucinas? In other words, that he was chatty. He used to like to talk to the players. When you were refereeing, you basically get around and, come on, Billy, I saw what you did. Just don't do that again, otherwise you'll be seeing a yellow card.
Yeah, I think I'm really verbal on the football field, and that's probably a really polite way to say it.
Wow.
You'll get inevitably, as you all know, you'll get a player turn around and say something less than complimentary about your latest decision. And George, I think, had a bit of a reputation.
Short fuse.
Had a bit of a short fuse as far as that goes. So I do tend to give back as well as I get.
Your first football job in Australia, can you remember it?
My first football job.
Yep.
My actual.
You had a responsibility and a commitment, and you did it. Yep.
Look, the first time
on training nights,
yeah,
you had to go out and you make sure you bought Norrie Pale.
Pate.
Was it Patey, was it?
Pate, yeah, Norrie Pate.
Norrie paid his dinner, was it?
Well, it was the only way I got selected for the team. We were playing at Knox, and I'd moved from Ferntree Gully, which was on a state tour, I think, at the time, up to Knox, which was in the State League, which is now the Premier League, NPL. And I was not the most skillful of players. And one of the ways to get on the team sheet was to buy Norrie a nice plate of bangers and mash.
And how many meals did Norrie have on a Thursday night?
Plenty.
Well, I can tell you, he sort of looked like he'd had one or two too many. Some of the way his pace dropped off. I had to start buying him salads.
That's just so precious. I love it. What have you got for him next, G2?
Oh, before you got there, you played some junior football at the old Ferntree Gully. Was that first step into junior football when you arrived from Port Moresby?
Yeah, that was the first one. Lived in Mountain Gate and played for Ferntree Gully for a number of years.
What are the memories of playing junior football there?
Grass in Australia.
Yeah. That was the first thing. Ferntree Gully.
There wouldn't have been too much grass in Papua New Guinea, would there?
Oh no. Quite often you were just playing on clay.
Bare earth, yeah.
Clay.
So what did you make of the green stuff on the ground as a youngster?
Well, the first thing I did was try and eat it. And then, of course, I tried to smoke it.
Let's not go there.
But no, it's part of the
statute of limitations.
There you go. Beautiful, we've got that.
Whew.
Always think about that.
Yeah, I was thinking Commander might be listening.
No.
We'll send him a podcast. What do you reckon?
No, Ferntree Gully was a great little club, very, very Dutch orientated, and a lot of Dutchies in that. And you know, some of them still involved in football. Now, Cortu is one of the players that I played with, and he's still heavily involved with Knox City.
Did he understand anything you were saying, and did you understand anything he was saying?
No, he was pretty good with me, but my grandmother came out from Scotland, had a really broad accent, and used to come to a lot of the games. And her and Cor used to have conversations for 10, 15 minutes at a time, and neither one knew what either was saying.
But both were very polite, obviously.
Oh,
Seriously
fantastic.
polite.
Body language does a great thing. A lot of body language.
That's so brilliant. I love it. That's the reality. That's what happens in life.
Okay, because of your contrasting playing, refereeing, and a lot of the charity work you do, the show's going to jump a bit.
Yeah,
Now,
you played for a number of clubs.
Yeah,
so
you're still playing.
We'll get an
Yeah, still playing for the police team,
Yeah.
and also playing for the Doncaster Legends over 55s team. I'm trying to actually get us to assume the nickname the Vampires because we hate crosses.
In all shapes and forms, forward line, defensive line, and goalkeeper. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah.
Is that because you don't like
Definitely
heading the ball?
Well, I'm pretty keen on it, but I used to be able to jump. Now for me to head the ball, somebody has to hit me on the head with it.
Oh dear. Oh, that's seriously scary stuff.
Okay, so you did mention the most important part there, Victoria Police, that soccer club which you've been a part of since.
1995. I joined them
Okay.
when the World Police and Fire Games were played in Melbourne.
Okay, so the club is over 70 years old as such, and in its early form, did participate in the leagues
Yep.
as a normal football club does. And quick shout out to Vince Mano. If anyone knows or has got any historic articles, memorabilia, or any details about the Victoria Police Club, please get in touch and we'll pass that on to Vince, who's doing some work on that field at the moment. But you came into it when they were now obviously a non-league club and just a charity type situation. Take us through what you said, 1995, the World Fire and Police Games.
Yeah, well, the World Police and Fire Games played every second year all around the world. Really, really competitive games. In 1995, the Dutch team won it, and they had 3 members of their team who had played in the previous World Cup.
Oh, God.
They qualified because they were doing a form of national service in Holland.
Of course
they were doing
they
their
were.
form of national service in the police force, so they were eligible to play in the World Police and Fire Games.
Has the Australian police force been anywhere near as creative as the Dutch?
No way. We get butchers and bakers and candlestick makers. We don't get international footballers.
What I would have done, I would have gone and grabbed someone like a Gary Ablett, and people would have said he can't play soccer, it doesn't matter. He would have lined up against the Dutch and taken them out.
I actually refereed Gary Ablett just after he finished his AFL career. He actually took up with one of the Geelong teams, Karaya.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And
Tell us
played with
about
Karaya. He played up front, and he was not bad.
He was good.
That's what I've heard.
He was not bad. He used to score. Well, in the game that I refereed, he scored two goals, both with his head.
Did you say anything to him at any stage throughout the game, or just let him run?
Look, he was just off an AFL career, and his arms were bigger than my legs. I kept my mouth pretty much shut.
Yeah, as you would.
But I might have
But what
mentioned
did-
to him at the end of the game, because he was actually bragging a little bit. I might have mentioned to him, mate, you scored 2 goals. This is state 1. I've scored 3 goals against Western
The
Suburbs
Suburbs.
in the Premier League.
At
So
well reserved,
so it reared its little head, as it does, surprisingly.
All right, so tell us, keep going on about the police, 1995.
So we played in the games. We got into the quarterfinals and were knocked out in the quarterfinals by, again, an excellent and extraordinarily athletic South African team. And then it just went on from there.
Did they have any Springboks playing?
They were springing all over the place. These lads were. I couldn't believe it. They were doing warm-ups at half-time that would have killed me.
Warm-ups at half-time.
Yeah, so... but I continued on with the police team and continue on now. Most of the stuff that we do is charity and community-based. We still participate in World Police and Fire Games and other competitions. We've got the Australian Police Championships in Australia in late October, early November. They're in Melbourne. We're going to Chengdu in China for the World Police and Fire Games. First time the World Police and Fire Games have been held in Asia.
Are you doing any work in between?
Yeah, look, every now and then. I dropped into work a couple of weeks ago, said hello. That was great. It was good to catch up with everyone there.
Speaking of catching up, David James on Facebook goes, you obviously haven't played in a game that Ron refereed.
Yeah, I think somebody made a complimentary Facebook entry about me there, and that's something that
said champion person.
Yeah, champion person, and then the Shannon, who I have shared a room with on some of our trips. The Shannon pipes up, you obviously haven't seen him referee. I mean, that hurts my feelings.
Gordon Kirkwood, great guy. Always a pleasure to meet him, Ron Sinclair. Nick Van Egmont, they don't get better than this guy. Should be a lot of fun. He's been there and a true champion. Gee. Ulysses Cockinus, who we all know, he says, Ron Sinclair, true champion, true gentleman. So,
well, if anyone's going to know, it's Ulysses.
One Carlos Loyola OAM. Not many people like you, Ron Sinclair, champion for the community, real gentleman. And on behalf of all the people with special needs, we give you a huge thank you and our unconditional support. It's been an absolute pleasure. What a wonderful testimonial.
They're lovely. And you know what? Every one of those that you read out, they all have something in common.
Well, Gary Cole says Ronaldo is a champion.
Yeah,
And
more than anyone else. They all have something in common. They all drink heavily.
No. This tells us. Look, I've got a list here, and it goes on. Robert Nelson. I've got Dennis Wutsinas. Good referee, good friend, a champion man. I'll be listening. So they're out there. They've locked up and lined up to listen to some of the deeds and some of the stories that Ron Sinclair is about to release between now and 8 o'clock on FNR's
we're still going with the story.
Pioneers.
We want to know the work that the police force and the Vicpol Police Soccer Club get involved with specifically. So some of the charity days and organisations, I want you to go into some detail.
Well, the biggest charity thing that we do is the Good Friday Appeal, so that's coming up. Get down to Jeff's Shed on Good Friday. So every year for the last 13 years, we've run a bit of a sausage sizzle at the Good Friday Appeal. The last couple of years, we've raised more than $15,000 every year. That's a lot of snags. That's basically a cow with a leg cut off.
So I was going to say quality snags.
Oh yeah, absolutely quality. We get them from a little Greek butcher in Huntington, Olympic Meats.
And what about the bread, the rolls?
No, just bread.
Bread.
And you know what? We still put the onions on top of the snags. I don't care what Bunnings says. We still put the onions on top.
I'm with you. That's how it should be.
Yeah. So we've been doing that for the last 13 years, and that's great fun. The Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday Appeal, as everyone knows, is just a fantastic thing. We always get somebody every year always comes up and says, it's Good Friday, you shouldn't be selling sausages.
Oh dear.
But that's all right. We've got that covered. We always say that that's all right, they're fish sausages. And they buy 3 or 4. Walk away.
It's very simple stuff.
You just got to be thinking one step ahead. So that's it. We are involved with a couple of other charities, most of the charities involving children, a couple of orphanages, an organisation called Hopeful Hearts in China that facilitates life-saving heart operations for kids, and an organisation called Dreams Come True, which facilitates sporting opportunities for underprivileged kids. And they're fantastic. You talk about putting your life into perspective. When you go to an orphanage in Vietnam and you make what for us is a small donation, and they say that's enough to run one of our houses for an entire year.
Ouch.
This is a house where one carer and 20 orphans, and it runs on $20 Australian a week.
We don't realise
there's
just how
an
fortunate-
opportunity to make a difference.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we don't readily understand, the fabulous commitment and support that the police force provides. I keep reminding people as often as we can that at the first sign of trouble, the police force are the first responders, and they're always running towards the danger, not running away from it. So we need to pay a bit more respect than we do, and it's always fabulous to see them get involved in charity events and really commit The band is a fabulous one, the police band. They do some fabulous work, and there's some seriously talented musos.
Oh, there is. I was actually in the police pipe band in the
here we go.
1980s. I didn't score a hat trick for them. But,
The pipe band.
Yeah, the pipe band. So we were...
How many bands does the police force, the Victoria Police Force, have?
No, we just have the one now. There used to be the pipe band,
With ration,
the military band, which had sort of the show band attached.
Uh-huh.
But these are difficult times financially, and you've got to rationalise, and we did. As the organisation, they cut out all the bands, but there was a fair bit of discontent with that, and after a fairly short period of time, they brought back the pipe band.
Yeah.
And the pipe band has some seriously talented musicians in it.
I've done a number of events over the years, had the good fortune to host some of them, and you sit there and you watch the faces of the people who've turned up to participate, and they love the music and they love the talent, so it's just fab.
Yeah.
Congratulations, well done. Back to George's question, which is you got around to a number of clubs. When did you decide that playing was not your caper and refereeing was really what you should do?
It was always the plan. It was
the plan.
The plan. There was. It was always the plan. I always said, as I said, Dad was a referee in all sorts of really exciting
Places.
iterations, and it was always my plan when I couldn't play at a reasonable level to turn to refereeing. And literally, I stopped playing at Knox City in 1995. So I turned 35.
Yeah.
It was fairly clear that as a 36-year-old, I wasn't going to get a run in the
games.
state league. And during the off season, I did the referees course and then started refereeing in 1996.
Fantastic stuff. We're going to take a short break. This is the Pioneers. Ron Sinclair is our guest, storyteller extraordinaire, but more importantly, a referee with a whistle, and he might even blow that whistle. That whistle that you've got in the studio with you belongs to...
This was my dad's whistle. This is a whistle that travelled with him to Scotland, to West Australia, and to Papua New Guinea. So every time I referee a game of note, it doesn't have to be a big game, it might be a little unusual, I kick off the game with Dad's whistle, I say his name, I give it a bit of a kiss, put it in my pocket, and then go on with the
What was
normal
Dad's
one.
name?
William Allen Sinclair. Alan.
Billy Boy. We'll
Yeah.
talk about Billy Boy when we come back.
Welcome back. Thursday night, you're on the Pioneers at Football Nation Radio, G1 and G2, and our special guest, Ron Sinclair. And a little bit of extra music, no more bagpipes for now. We may go back
I was
to
going
that.
to sing along.
Yeah, you can sing along.
Just don't blow the whistle, please.
Not long ago, Jimmy O'Reilly was in here singing, so it wouldn't be the first time or last time a Scotsman has. So.
Well, one of the reasons I play the bagpipes is because when it comes to singing, I couldn't hold a tune if it had a handle on it. And you can't play the bagpipes and sing, so it was pretty safe.
But going forward, the Pioneers, we could get a band together. You could play the bagpipes, Jimmy could sing, because he has recorded a CD actually. People
Okay.
don't know that, but it's a fact. He's recorded a CD.
The station commander can just about order whatever he likes at FNR these days.
Yes, he can do what he likes. And what we will do is just go back to some of the extra special work that the VicPol are doing, the Victorian Police Soccer Club, especially the two that I want to discuss, or I want you to elaborate on, is the Doveton Special School and the Tony Clark Memorial Day. Please.
Well, the two most important games in our fairly packed calendar. So the Doveton Special Soccer School, we've been playing them for the last 15 years. So we've played them 14 times, and we have not won a game yet. They always pip us. They're always high-scoring games. They're around about 14-13 or 16-14.
When's that coming up
of
this
stuff.
year?
We're talking soccer?
Yeah.
Wow.
14th of April this year, we'll be
Okay.
playing in Box Hill.
Yep.
So that's always a thrilling game. They're a fantastic group of people. It's not just kids. There's a little bit of a misnomer there. There's adults playing for that game, playing in that game. They obviously have some intellectual disabilities that they carry around, but to different degrees.
And we've got a couple of guys at FNR who happily would come in and assist your goalkeepers. for those special games.
That'd be
Sirianis
fantastic.
and
We
Nick
could get some
Debano,
guest players.
a couple of young guys.
We do have guest players. My daughter Lauren she's a bit of a football nut. She's
Fantastic.
played against them. My daughter Courtney, who is not a football nut and would rather eat mud, she's come along and played again in the Dupton special soccer games. But yeah, they're fantastic. Such a wonderful group of people, and it just goes to show what football can do. You know, that they're dealing with so many challenges in their lives, but for 90 minutes there, they are absolute champions, and they always beat the Victoria Police Soccer Club. They always let us know they are not quiet winners, I've got to tell you. They get stuck into something chronic.
Bragging rights.
Yeah, bragging rights over the top. But they're just so many great memories. One of my strongest memories is a game we played at Port Melbourne against Dupton Special Soccer School, and one of their players was quite a good little footballer, and the game was precariously balanced right towards the end, about 14-all or something like that. And we had Rick Jansen in goals, and Rick is a good keeper. He played at the highest level in Victoria, and he's still a good keeper, and he still was then. And this young lad has just hit a peach from outside the box. He couldn't have hit it better. And it sailed in the top corner. Rick's standing there and going, oh yeah, no, not getting that. And that was a winning goal. The referees blown the whistle for the end of the game. They won 15-14. And this kid's gone running over to his parents on the side of the road, on the side of the pitch. And his mum was in tears, and his dad was standing about 20 feet tall with pride, and he was in tears. And he's just gone and given his mum a great big hug, and his dad's just standing there so proud of his son. And all 20 of their players have piled on top of him. And all about, we've got hardened detectives and members who have been in the police force for years and years and years. And we're all standing there, and I look around our team, and there was tears being shed, just tears of joy.
Yes.
To see that joy in this kid's, and see what it meant to his family and the pride that they had. So I've got no doubt, 14th of February in Box Hill, there'll be similar stories. But this year, this is our year. I can feel it in our water.
Well, do you reckon you can turn the
We're
tide?
going to get
You're
up
talking
over the
about
top
big
of this
time,
one.
aren't
Big
you?
time. This is our year. 15 is the charm.
Well, maybe if an art can get out and
Charm.
do a live broadcast.
Do you
of
need a
that.
defender or two? Because I reckon I'll put up a couple of extra special players there.
Well, I don't know if you were listening, George, but 15 goals against. What do you think?
Yeah, I reckon you need some defence.
yeah. There you go.
You need
Georgina
more-
Stewart, are you available? No, she said no.
All right, and another big day on the Victoria Police soccer calendar, and even the
Tony
football
Clark.
calendar, is the Tony Clark Memorial Day.
Special one.
Explain why first, just for those who aren't aware.
So Tony was a playing member of the Victoria Police Soccer Club. He played in the 1995 World Police and Fire Games with us, and sadly he was murdered with his own firearm when he was on a one-up patrol. And so in honour of Tony's memory, every year we play a team of ex-Australian international players. So the Socceroos versus the Copperoos.
Wow.
And it started off just as a fairly low-key event at Knox City.
Yeah.
Tony worked out of Knox, so they were gracious enough to host us there for a number of years, and then it moved along to a couple of different grounds, but now we've found our home at Lakeside, and the last 4 years have been played at Lakeside Stadium as the
It's a
curtain
great
raiser
venue,
do.
great venue.
It is, it's fantastic.
Especially with the last $60 million that was spent on it to bring it up to make it a very special boutique facility in the heart of Melbourne at Albert Park is just magical.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And the pitch is super, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really good. And all of our hosts have been absolutely wonderful. Knox and we played at Amy Park and we played at Heidelberg, and they have all been wonderful. But I think we without in any way denigrating what other clubs have done for us. We found our home at South Melbourne for this particular
Fantastic.
game. They're great hosts. The teams that they play against always honour the game. So we play against the Socceroos. We've won a couple. They've won most of them, but we have won a couple. And that's played as a curtain raiser before an NPL game. We get all of Tony's family along, Tina and Connor, his son, John, his father, and his wider
John,
family. And we just make sure that they know that we're still thinking about them. and we're still thinking about Tony, and we're keeping Tony's sacrifice out there, so people never forget what he's done and what other police members have done for the people of Victoria.
Correct. Speaking of memorable people, I've met his father at Amy Park.
John, yeah.
Yeah, Jono, and he really, you can see just what that occasion means to him. It's a very special occasion, and the efforts of all the players who get involved is really appreciated, so it's fantastic.
It
and
is.
The quality of play is good.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and Tony was such a football man. You know, he was, as I said, a player for us, a mad Liverpool supporter, which we forgive him.
Yeah.
I was almost going to say almost perfect.
Nearly. Yeah.
What was he thinking?
Well, I don't know what he was
Easily
thinking, because
led.
in some of those days in the 90s when Liverpool were winning everything, I'd get
And
phone
the
calls at
80s,
three
and
in the
the
morning
70s.
from him. I'd give it a break.
All these front runners, the same thing, aren't they? They sit there quietly. And
It is a special day, and any event that can have Jimmy Rooney continually turning up and wearing the green and gold is a great event as far as I'm concerned.
He's a superstar.
Jimmy has not missed a Tony Clark game. And still gets out there and plays. He's into his 70s, and he still plays. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, he broke one of our players' hearts
Not
by
legs.
Nutmegging him.
by nutmegging him twice in 5 minutes. He's put.
He did a Katsanis, didn't he?
And he's done it deliberately. And
He
the
done it
second
Jimmy
one
Rooney.
he's actually called. He's actually got the ball, he's dropped the shoulder, he's called that nutmeg and then put it straight between Michael Putson's legs.
Well,
Jimmy Rooney,
therein
that was
lies
it.
the difference between Katsanis. He'd tell anybody nothing.
Yeah.
He's a stealth bomber. Yeah,
No, I'll call it too, but I'm not going into the category of Jimmy Rooney. Jimmy Rooney is in his own category.
Oh.
He's even above Luis Suarez when it comes to nutmegs.
Hallelujah.
Hey, don't worry about Jimmy Rooney.
By the way, talking about memorable characters, a young guy, Brazilian guy, he's made quite an impression on you.
I actually got to meet Pele technically on 3 occasions.
Technically. Oh, please explain.
So Pele was out in the late 80s to Australia doing a book signing. And,
And you assigned yourself to that book signing, did you?
well, as a matter of fact, I did. So I had
commander.
I was a senior connie then. I was just a little pup.
So what did you buy dinner for someone, did you?
No, I actually had a court case in the city, and I knew Pele was doing his book signing, so I've gone into the court case. It was supposed to run for a couple of days, but the defence has given it up at lunchtime and changed their plea. So I've gone down to Swanson Street, Collins Books.
Aided and abetted by Ron Sinclair. They changed the plea.
Yeah, I might have slipped him a 50.
Gee.
So 50 cents, that is.
That's it, I was going to say.
Scotsman.
Yeah, that's it. There you
So
go.
you went down
So
to
I've
Collins
gone
Street.
down there, and it was just packed. You couldn't get near the place. And this was in Swanson Street.
Sorry, this is Collins and Swanson Street, that's right,
in
yeah.
Swanson Street. So this is when cars were in Swanson Street, and
you would have
couldn't
been
get
in
near the
uniform.
place.
You would have
I was
been
in
in
uniform,
uniform.
just having come from court, and I was just going to turn around and leave because I thought I'm never getting close. And the managers come running out, see me in uniform. He said, "Oh, thank goodness you're here. Come on around the back. I'll put you in the back." And he, through the back door, standing right beside Pele as his little personal security guard.
Yeah.
And that day sort of flew by because it was really shambolic, and there was all these people. I had to do a little diversion. They snuck Pele out the back, and
Beautiful.
that was gone. And I thought,
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. That's fantastic. Close to the great man. And I was getting ready to leave, and somebody's come up to me afterwards, one of his minders, and said, "Oh, that was really good, thank you. Are you going to be looking after Pele tomorrow?" And I've said, "Yes." As a matter of fact, just remind me when and where.
And again.
And they said, "Oh, it's at Myers at 10 o'clock tomorrow." So I've gone, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'll see you there." So I've gone back to Ferntree Gully Police Station where I was working. They said, "How did court go?" And I said, "Oh, it was pretty tough. I've got to go back tomorrow."
A little white light.
That's
A
precious.
little. So I've gone in there, and this time at Myers, as you would expect, they were really well organised, and they had a little dais and a stage. He was sitting up there, and there was this snaking queue going all around the place, and right down, and a seat for his minder right beside him, and I spent 2 or 3 hours just sitting beside him. And one of the things I remember is, you have this vision sometimes of great people, and you meet them in the flesh, and this has happened to me, and they turn out to be less than. But he was just an absolute gentleman, and he would sign everything. The organiser said, no, he'll only sign his book, he would sign his shirts and balls and arms and everything. And I remember seeing this lady, middle-aged lady in the crowd, and she was just coming towards him in the queue, and she had nothing in her hands, nothing, what was going on. And she got up to Pele, and she had nothing. And he said, thank you for being so patient. Is there something you'd like me to sign? And she took out of her pocket a St. Christopher's medal.
Oh, wow.
And she said, I'd like you to have this. And he said, oh, that's very nice, I'm Catholic, And she said, yeah, well, this belonged to my son, and he was a great admirer of yours, and he was killed in a car accident.
Oh, dear.
So I would like you to have it. And Pele, you talk about grown men again, shedding tears. Pele got down off the dais, and he took the St. Christopher medal, and he kissed it.
Yeah.
And he put it around the lady's neck, and he kissed her on both cheeks, and he said, I want you to keep this. You have given me something I will never forget.
How beautiful.
And again, all these hard men queuing up to get his, and there was tears. It was just wonderful.
Speaking of hard men, I bet you would have seen just about everybody you played that day.
Yeah, everyone I've played with or against for the last 20 years was in that queue, and everyone's come up there and I've gone, Ronnie, how did you do this? Trust you, Ronnie, honestly. Anyone would think that I connived to get that position.
I wouldn't have said anything.
Very, very hurtful.
Oh,
and I actually met him, he was in Melbourne, I think, 2014 or so, doing a bit of a talk. And he was doing it with some of your colleagues from SBS.
Was it Les? Or
yeah, Les was there.
Oh,
Les was there.
There you go.
And they were doing that. And during the halftime break, I'd taken a photo with Pele the first time. And I've gone up to the green room door, and there was these huge, massive security fellows there. Well, what do you want? I showed them the photo and said, I wonder, would you take this in and see if Pele would sign it? And they go, oh, wait there.
Oh, that's good.
And they've gone rumbling in, they come back and say, come with me. And I've gone, yeah, whatever you say. So I've gone in, Pele was sitting down there, and he said, oh, you're a policeman? I said, yeah, because obviously in police uniform in the photo. And so he signed it, and he said, I'm sorry, I don't remember this photograph being taken. And I said, look, I don't expect you to remember a photograph with me all those years ago, but you might remember that a lady tried to give you a St. Christopher medal, and you gave it back to her, and you could just see the light going on in his eyes. Yeah. And he said, I remember that lovely lady, and I gave her back the medal and gave her a kiss. And for him to remember that, I thought was another indication of what sort of person he was. And he said, oh, do you want another photo? And I looked at it, and I looked at the photo that he'd signed, and I said, you know what? No, I've got this photo. I've got this fantastic memory, and that's enough. And he laughed and he laughed and he laughed. And he says, oh, that's great. We'll stay young together. And so we have.
Well done.
Speaking of lovely ladies, there's a few that you might want to mention while we're live on air tonight. Just.
Well, of course, I've already spoken about Lauren Courtney,
yeah.
my daughters, my football widow Gail, who sits at home and comes along to some of the games, but probably has to be dragged along, well, like so many spouses. To not just to all the ladies who are so supportive of their partners and their lovers throughout their careers. I say thank you. We really do appreciate it. We might not look like it when we bring those dirty kids and dirty boots home, but thank you.
Don't worry about the collective thank you.
Yeah.
Just give her a special thank you from you. How about that?
Thank you, sweetheart.
That's
There you
better.
go. Speaking of memorable, people that we care about because they make an impact on our lives, some of our coaches. Any that stand out we should acknowledge?
I've already spoken about Stacky, who was sort of captain and still is a character and a half. Don't worry about that. He's actually coming with us to Vietnam
What?
On next Thursday, we fly to Vietnam. We're taking an over 50s team, and we're playing some games with some of the locals over there. But Stacky's pre-season killed people. He used to run a sweat box that went for about 3,000 kilometres, and would not, literally wouldn't stop training until somebody had thrown up. Mickey Sinclair was just a hard man and a hard coach, and he was as hard off the field as he was on it. He would destroy opponents with his verbal tirade. And I've spoken about Norrie Pate, who was a real players coach, and had that sort of Billy Connolly comedic ability that, you know, he could tell a story, he could turn everything around, and was a very, very good footballer as well.
There's a great story. I'm not sure if you mentioned it earlier. It's to do with the under 20 Taiwanese international player who gave you guys a bit of a touch up.
Look, we travelled to China and Taiwan in 2013. The Victoria
This is
Police,
part of responsibilities there, representing the police force. Yes.
representing Victoria Police. I mean, yeah, we do it in our own time and at our own expense, but
And
it's
what
a
happened-
great way
what
to
happened
see
here?
stuff. And we'd sent them over a thing to say, look, you know, we're a community-based team. We just
Sure.
want to do something
Yeah.
and just play some local coppers and do this, that, now and that. Yeah, no worries. We've gone over there and we ended up playing the Taiwanese national under-20s team. In the national stadium. It was an absolute stitch up and a half. And I'm marking this kid who would have given Usain Bolt the time of his life.
Wow.
He was running around the place and he wouldn't stop. And I spoke about half-time antics. It was about 47 degrees in the shade and there was no shade. And this kid at half-time, while I'm lying on the ground with ice packs on me, this kid is doing doggies to stay warm. And I've gone up to him just after half time and said, mate, he had really good English. And I said, mate, I can't chase you anymore. I'm absolutely shattered. So here's the deal. If you run more than 10 metres, if I have to chase you more than 10 metres, at the end of that, I'm going to kick you up in the air. And he had a bit of a laugh. And then the ball's come over. He's run 20 metres. Yeah, he's run 20 metres to get the ball. I've chased him for 20 metres and kicked him up in the air. And he's looked up and he said, I thought you were joking. I said, no, I'm not joking. So he was really good for the next about 30 minutes, just a little short, sharp. So I'm getting in the same postcode as him. But then, towards the end of the game, he's gone off again, another 20, 25-yard run. And I've kicked him up in the air when I caught him, and he's looked up from the ground as I've helped him up, and he says, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot.
Short concentration.
Sure. Yeah, he's so young.
But it sounds like you guys have had a fabulous time travelling the world and representing Victoria and the police force.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And you've travelled everywhere. I've had a look at some of the details and your itinerary, and you've gone from one end of the world to the other. China, as you alluded to, a couple of times, 2 or 3 times there. Washington, D.C., thank you very much. Southeast Asia, on and on. Paris. Tell me about Paris and your time there. The homeless.
Yeah,
was it the Homeless World Cup?
refereed at the Homeless World Cup, which is just another fantastic organisation that brings people out of homelessness through their work in football. And you touched on travel all around the world. We're so lucky that our chosen sport is the world game. I mean, I would rather kids play any sport than watch football on TV, because that gets them out playing. I don't care what they play. If they're playing a sport, that's fantastic. But our particular sport is the world game, and you can go anywhere in the world, and there's football.
That's fantastic stuff. But Paris, did you win or lose in Paris?
I refereed, so I won.
Thank you.
Yeah, when you referee.
Won every game.
We always have the last word, the final say. Speaking of the last word and final say, we're getting close
got
to
the whistle,
that time of the week where we start to wind up. The last couple of years personally have been a bit tough for you. There's been a little bit of in and out health-wise with the hospitals.
Yep.
Just run us through what happened, what you've been through the last couple of years, and where you're currently at. Give us some good news at the end of it.
Yeah, well, it is good news. I've been treated for multiple melanoma, and that's come and gone. Had an initial operation that was successful, but as with melanoma does, it's an insidious thing, and back it came. So I've had 5 operations for it. I cut various bits out, and you just run around with the bits that are left.
Do you cover up now just about everything?
No, I've never been that sort of person. If I can show something, I do. It's a good thing we're on
Show
radio.
them a yellow card.
Yeah.
Show them a red
A
card.
red card, you know.
Scotsman says a bit of sun.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, when they did this, and the lesson is slip, slop, slap, and I really, really say that nowadays.
And you mean it.
The oncologist said, look, that damage was probably done 40 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. The cover over Australia about 40 years ago was probably not as good as it has, developed over the last few years. I think the conditions have improved because we're using less of this spray stuff. That helps immeasurably.
Yeah, but it
40
comes
years
down
ago,
to,
not so much.
Yeah, it comes down to that personal thing. I say it to everyone: slip, slop, slap, cover up, cover up, cover up.
I wonder if Kitsanis will ever heed any of your advice.
Well, I hope so.
He's a thrill seeker and a pirate.
I always listen to my elders. So. And just to clarify that Facebook post, you were born in 1960. 1963 was my era, which was clearly never going to be correct.
No, that's 63 is when we arrived in Australia on my birthday.
That's right. Do you remember the name of the vessel?
Yeah, the SS Stratheden.
Okay.
Yeah. Ron Sinclair, you refereed the Deaf Olympics in 2005, and that includes the final at Olympic Park. How do you referee a game for the hearing impaired? Thank you very much.
The Deaf Olympics, it was fantastic, and again,
So
here's football.
Do you run past them
people.
and just wave in front of their
No,
eyes?
you get given a flag. You get as the referee.
But if they're running away from you,
I know, and there's the challenge. So one of the games was out at Bentley Greens. One of the preliminary games was out
Kingston
at Bentley
Heath.
Greens, and there's this player, and he was sort of doing little circles around the place, and had committed a foul. So I'm chasing him around with this. With this, if that's for me, just tell him I'm
no,
going to finish.
it's my daughter. As she gets a bit inquisitive at this time of the evening,
quite
and
right.
she thinks, I can reach out to Dad.
Yeah. So I'm chasing this player around in circles, waving the flag. But because he was going in circles, I just couldn't catch his eye. And the people on the sidelines were killing themselves laughing.
So how long did this go on for?
Oh, well, it felt to me like it went on for as long as this interview, but it was probably only about 15 seconds.
Ron, how do you distinguish between the referee with the flag and the linesman?
Well, in this case, the referee was a lot better looking than anyone else.
And do you have a different coloured flag?
No, it was a little one. It wasn't a proper one. It was a little triangular flag.
Yeah.
But because you're a referee here, if you got close enough, you could just whack them with it. So that worked as well.
Amazing stuff. I'm sitting there thinking, Deaf Olympics.
Deaf Olympics, yeah, that's it.
That's fantastic. Well, we're seeing them do so many fabulous things. They play golf, they play tennis, why not play football? And I'm thinking, how do you referee?
Yeah.
But
Well,
there you go,
badly.
with
That's
a
the way I
flag.
referee. I
With
referee badly.
With the flag.
All right, so you're off to Vietnam, is that right, with the police team?
Yep,
Yeah.
next Thursday.
Okay, and then after that you're off for another trip straight from Vietnam to?
To China. I'm going off and refereeing in
This is the
international
one in
under
Chengdu, is it?
15. No, that's in August. The World Police and Fire Games
Oh,
are in
please.
August. At the same time as the Gothia Cup, which I've refereed at a number of times, a great, fantastic youth tournament. But it's an international under-15s tournament, so there'll be the Chinese international under-15s team, some provincial teams from around China, and teams from Singapore, Vietnam. So
The Gothia Cup you've done 2 or 3 times.
3 times,
So
yeah,
you're
fantastic.
you're
Unfortunately,
seasoned
this
operative.
year it is the same time, exactly the same week as the World Police and Fire Games. So I'll miss the Gothia Cup 2019, but I'll be there in 2020.
Well, listen, we're available.
We.
We haven't been to China before.
You should
It'll
give
take
Dad's-
2 of us to do
give Dad's
one
whistle
job.
a bit of a toot and see how you go.
All
So all those listening, and then all you've done is travel your whole life, really. With football. But
From
all those
Scotland-
listening,
from
I
Scotland
just
to-
want you to clarify that as a policeman, you're going off in your own time.
Yes.
And it's not part of work as such. It's on your own leave, taking your own leave.
Sadly. Wouldn't it
need
be a
that clarified.
fantastic thing? Like Chief Commissioner Graham Ashton may be listening.
Yes.
I think one of the things that you could do to improve Victoria Police is to have a full-time football team.
Correct.
And a
Yes.
coach. And we'd put our hand up.
And 2 commentators.
There's 2 commentators to come along.
Yes. We could be part of the social media again.
All right, let's put together a bit of a business case
Graham
and we'll
Ashton.
put it into Graham Ashton. If you're listening, boss.
Yeah. You know how it works. They say radio is an amazing thing. Everyone's listening all the time. They don't always hear unless you impress your point to their immediate subconscious. And when you mentioned Commander Ashton,
Chief
I bet
Commissioner.
you- the Chief Commissioner, I bet you his ears went, they're talking about me again.
Well, there may be that. We may get a professional football team, or I may get the sack tomorrow. I might get the DC.
way, Jose.
Either way, we'll make an impact.
That's right.
Yeah.
I expect you to mention it on the radio.
We certainly will.
We certainly will. Ron Sinclair, it's been an absolute hoot. I didn't realise we'd have so much fun. And we haven't blown the whistle yet. Go, George.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show and shedding some light on what the Victorian Police soccer team do and the great work they do on the charity front. Thank you for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it. The playing, the refereeing, leaving grounds intact. We've never had a Pioneer
Armoured
League
personnel carrier, thank you.
tank.
No, I did call her a tank.
Sure.
It
We're
makes a
going
bit. Never let the truth get in the way of the good story. I've often
Absolutely.
said that through my police career.
The boys from the Preston Knights are coming. So the Preston, the Lions Den is about
Lions.
to unleash itself on us. So we have to fly. So Ron Sinclair, thank you so much for joining
And
us.
I might see you at the Community and Business on the 3rd of May.
We'll be there.
We'll be there. We'll be talking. It's only 2 days before Tony's big day, so we'll be talking about it there.
Excellent.
FNR, Football Nation Radio.
Buzianas, no call! Scot!
Salamidi for Cole. Cole on the run. Shoots. 2-0.
Lazanovsky with the free kick. Launches a rocket! Trimboli, what vision! Bath blasts. Yes! Edzich!
Miljevic.
Here's Bozanic. They might have won it!
The Pioneers with George Danikian and George Kotzanis on FNR, Football Nation Radio.